Hello, Brick Sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt Reviews. This is Chris, and I have an exciting video here for you. This is an order from Wobricks, also known as World of Bricks, and it came to my knowledge after ordering this that these products are actually made by a company called Gobricks, and Wobricks is kind of one of the main distributors of Gobricks. Now, I've done a few of these videos with some pieces I really liked and some that I wasn't such a fan of. But I have to admit, in this order, this could be quite dangerous to a LEGO purist. Let me give you some examples. We'll just kind of work our way around the board here, starting down in front. This is your typical branch piece in green. And right off the top, it looks pretty good. Here I can compare it to a genuine LEGO one. Quite similar. My LEGO one is a little bit worn and old. I haven't been able to buy these new for a while. But the flexibility is good. The look is pretty good. Color is almost spot on. It's a pretty impressive version of it, to be honest with you. The biggest difference here, if you were to buy genuine ones of these on Bricklink, they're about 20 to 30 cents a piece. These on Wobrick are 7 cents a piece. So quite a savings there. Very nice quality part. I'm very impressed with that. Now these window panes I picked up, when I do these orders, I try to pick up things that are the same as LEGO so I can compare them directly. I also try to pick up things that are the same but different colors and things that are completely unique. Now this is something I've been after for a while. Building an outdoorsy city, window panes in brown I thought would be a natural go-to. Well, unfortunately, LEGO doesn't make this piece in brown. The closest I could find was black, which just doesn't do the same. They do make a lattice piece in brown, but not the traditional window frame. So they had them, and these are quite inexpensive. This was only 4 cents a piece. So I got 20 of them there, and I probably will end up incorporating those in with my normal LEGO parts. The quality of them is almost identical, to be honest with you. Now the bamboo piece I went for because I've bought these from other companies as well and compared them, and typically they're very weak. Now I have to admit, even genuine LEGO ones are quite weak. These have a tendency to break over time especially, and so I wanted to test this out. Now right off the top, the look, very similar. It's a little bit more matte on the leaves, but it's actually not a terrible thing. Color is almost spot on. Let's test the durability here if I push one of these leaves. So we do get a little bit of that white, and it doesn't fully bounce back. Yeah, so it's still not super durable, but that is kind of to be expected even with the genuine LEGO one. So something they could have improved on for sure. But overall, the look and feel is quite similar to what the LEGO one has to offer. Now here we have my favorite newer leaf piece, the 3-leaf piece. And I got these in green because LEGO makes them in olive green and bright green, and also red and white, and I think a trans color. But they don't make regular green, which is kind of strange. They only do bright green. Now, the mold, very similar. I don't like the glossiness on this. I think this finish is much better. This is made with the harder ABS plastic, where this is the more flexible plastic that LEGO uses. So I wish they would have made this out of the same plastic as they did like the 3-branch or the large branch piece here. But the mold looks good. I just don't like the glossiness of that. These I picked up because I love to use LEGO Friends flowers for small detail. But color-wise, they don't offer much. And these would look really good on like a budding tree or something. So I got a handful of these small flowers. Now this I was happy to find, but it's not ideally what I wanted. So this is a green flame, and it's not a trans green flame. It's just a regular green flame. It's the same mold as your typical LEGO flame, but in green. Well, why did I order green? This is an older LEGO flame where it has the posts on it in trans green. Now these are incredibly uncommon, and I have a few of them from way back in the day of my childhood. And I love this piece because it looks just like seaweed. If you put this in a creek or a river laying down, I thought I could probably achieve the same thing with this, but I don't know if the solid green is going to do the same look as the transparent green. So we tried. Maybe it'll work for some plant stuff. Maybe you can use it as moss hanging down from a tree. That would look kind of cool. So yeah, I intentionally got that in kind of a strange color. So I got an assortment of pumpkins here. I got orange ones just to compare with a standard Lego one. Really, you could really not tell the difference here. It looks identical. It feels identical. Not a lot of difference there at all. But I wanted to get some other colors. Lego does make other colors. They make dark orange, they make red. But for some reason they don't do white. White's a pretty common color of like heirloom pumpkin. And they also got some of these kind of cream ones. I don't think Lego does a color similar to this. I forget what they call it. I think it's called like wheat or something like that. But it's more like a light bright yellow in Lego. But I thought they looked pretty cool, so I picked those up as well. But this is overall a really nice quality piece. Now, one thing in my cities, I do typically a waterfront type feel, and I've often gone out and purchased Lego seagulls. Now, Lego seagulls are not cheap. They're kind of this rubbery material, and they usually run like $4 or $5 a piece. They're not inexpensive at all. And so I said, hey, they have seagulls, let's get one. And this was 53 cents. But like I said, the genuine Lego ones, $3 to $4 a piece. Now they are quite different. The markings on the wing are different. This is the harder plastic, not the rubbery plastic. But the quality is quite nice. The markings I'm not crazy about, but look at the quality of the beak and the eye. This looks like an incredibly nicely molded piece. And it's not just painted on. This is definitely molded in some way where this is part of the actual piece here. So really nice quality, even though it's definitely not the same as a genuine Lego one. I would have no problem using these, to be honest, even though they aren't identical. Now these bowls, this is a beef I've had with Lego for a while. They only offer these in a couple colors. Lego has them in white and the dark orange kind of terracotta look. And I mean, this is such a useful piece for different greebling type stuff like lights and things like that, but also just as a bowl. And color-wise, they really need to branch out. So I got some sand blue ones and some matte silver, flat silver. And I think these look really good. I'm excited about those. Same thing with the bottles. Traditionally, Lego has made 3 colors of bottle. Trans brown, trans green, and trans clear. And but that's it. A nice piece, very useful, but very limited color selection. They had lots of colors. They had dark orange, which I thought looked kind of good for more of a vintage bottle, and white, maybe for a milk bottle, something like that. So I picked some of those up as well. And the quality of them is really nice. I mean, they look very, very similar to the originals. I also wanted to pick up some of these baskets. Now, I do have several of these pieces in Lego, but all the ones I have are either pink, purple, or yellow. They don't make a lot of color in this. I think it's generally more of a Friends piece. They do, however, make them in medium nougat, but they're going to cost you. I mean, a medium nougat one in genuine Legos, about $4 on Bricklink. I got these for 14 cents a piece. I also got a dark tan one. These just look a lot more natural to me than having a whole bunch of these pink ones around. Having 1 or 2 is fine, but these are very useful pieces. I kind of wish I would have got more of them, to be honest. Now, I picked up some brooms here. Surprisingly, for this piece has been around for a very long time in the Lego world, but they've only made it in 2 colors that I could find. And that is reddish brown and traditional brown. But they had it in all kinds of colors. Gray, sand blue, dark blue. I think these look really good. I was happy to find these. A green one would have been nice too, but they didn't have that, or maybe I just didn't get it. But I thought those were super cool and a really good find. I will say, part selection-wise, there's definitely a much more narrow catalog of Wobrick and Gobrick. But the stuff that they do have comes in a vast variety of colors. So you can get a lot of these in many, many, many colors. And that's a huge advantage, Lego has a huge catalog, and I'm sure they make far, 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 far more pieces. But because of that, a lot of the stuff is limited in colors, which is okay. But it would be nice to be able to branch out a little bit with some of this stuff. And that's why I got a lot of the items I did here. Perfect example are these pieces here, the minifig posing stand. This has quickly become one of my favorite pieces, and I love it for furniture, and I love it for plants, which means for furniture, browns are great, and plants, brown is also great. But Lego doesn't make this in brown. Gobricks, however, makes it in dark brown and reddish brown, so I got both here. As far as comparing it to the original, it's really hard to tell the difference. These are almost identical. So I think that is a good pickup. You know, in something like that you can't get from Lego, I could possibly be convinced to use those in an actual build just because of the unavailability. And that is really something I wish that Lego, and they might in the future, it is a pretty new piece, but I really wish Lego would make that in more colors because it is such a handy piece. Now, I did a whole video around Pythagorean triples and slopes with studs on them, and I saw these, I had to get them. You know, this is the original from Lego. They only make it in a few colors, I think black, yellow, red, white, and maybe blue. The real traditional colors, nothing real exciting, nothing real modern. You know, nowadays Lego obviously has many different colors, and they had this in lots of stuff like dark orange, lime green, dark brown. So many useful colors, so you can really branch out. And this is where, again, I am a bit of a Lego purist, but I could possibly be convinced to branch out into stuff like this if it's a piece that's very useful and Lego, for whatever reason, has stopped making it or is not making the appropriate color for it. Now here we're getting into a piece that Lego doesn't make, and I've never seen before. Now this is kind of like a cheese slope, but it has studs on one side, and it's a 2x2. The cool thing with these pieces is they stack really nicely. Because of that little lip, they fit together seamlessly, and especially if you stagger these, you could make a really good looking roof for a building out of these. I just wanted to try them, so I only got 4 of each. I got some of the dark orange, more terracotta color, and some dark gray ones, but I think that's a really good piece. Something I wish Lego would make. This was another one I found really interesting. Lego, of course, makes a 2-high, 5-plate tall SNOT piece, but here is the corner version. That could be infinitely handy in the world of Lego. So I had to pick some up, and I think that's a great piece. I think that's a fantastic idea for Gobricks to create that. This next one here is quite interesting. So this is a piece Lego does make, but it's incredibly rare and incredibly limited in colors. I think it comes in only a handful of colors. I believe the only color I own it in is chrome. And these are super old. I've had these since I was young. I only have a few. They're actually quite rare and expensive. But this is a great piece, and I wish Lego would make more of this. Now, why do I like this so much? Actually, I had a video where I did a bunch of pine trees recently, and the trunks of them I made out of pin connectors. And the reason I do that is I like how smooth they are. You know, a lot of people will do tree trunks like this with 1x1 round bricks. It just doesn't look natural to me. I don't like the rings on it. Maybe for like a railing or a decorative feature, but not for a tree trunk. That's where I think these look a lot better. Well, this piece here combines the best of both worlds. You don't have the ridges. You still have the height and the strength. You can also run a bar down them because they are hollow studs. And so I figured brown was the only color, the most appropriate color to buy this in. So I got a bunch of these in brown. I'm really happy with that purchase. And I have to say the quality, again, very nice. I mean, this is very, very similar in quality to the stuff you're seeing from Lego. So here I have some more pieces that Lego doesn't make. And this is, I'm learning, a pretty common Gobricks method for SNOT. They take the studs and stick them off the front of a 1x2 plate or a 1x1 plate. And they do have, as I like to term them, downers and uppers. And these are pretty common in their stuff. And it basically can turn any normal plate or brick into a SNOT brick by hanging it over and giving it the right height. Very, very useful piece. And something that Lego obviously does not make. But I got them in different colors here, 1x2s, 1x1s, white, dark gray, gray. medium nougat, and black. So I think that's a great piece. And I'll probably do future videos on this piece because I think it has a lot of value and something that if I were Lego, I would consider doing. But I am glad that Gobricks is doing it because I think it's a super, super handy piece. Up here, I recently did a video on the smallest stud reversal connections. And a really good video. If you want to check it out, I'll link it here as well as at the end of the video. But how could I not pick this up? 1x1 plate with studs on both sides. Talk about smallest stud reversal. There you go. They also have 1x2 version, and I got a variety of colors there. And then, this might not look like much now because they have a spur on them. But these are the ring. Arguably the smallest stud reversal piece out there in white, gray, and dark gray. So Lego makes this piece, but as far as I know, just in chrome gold, metallic gold, for the one ring from Lord of the Rings. I have heard it be used for jewelry and stuff as well, but you can get it in other colors from other manufacturers. So pretty cool. This is another piece that I found super interesting and I wish Lego would start doing, was wedge pieces that are tile, no studs. You know, if you're trying to do angled roads or angled scenery, this would come in very helpful to not have the studs on there. They did have a variety of these to use in different colors, sizes, and then of course the left and right equivalent. But I just picked up a couple here just to test them out and see what they look like. Very impressive piece. Now this here is very exciting. I did a whole video series on hinges, hinge types, and their uses. I compared a bunch of them. And one of the biggest complaints about the ball and socket or the mixel joint is color. Lego makes these parts, but they make them in ball side, dark gray, socket side, light gray, and that's all you get. They do have different variations, but they all work in that color scheme. The problem is, yeah, this is a functional piece, but you often see it. And if you see it, it might distract from the look of the mock or build if it's just gray. Well, Gobricks has a ton of them, and this is not all the colors they offer. This is just a few that I bought. I will say their olive green is definitely not a good match to Lego's olive green. It's a little more milky and lighter, but nonetheless, they have dark orange, white, green, dark tan, black, and this again is not all the colors. Their pearl gold is a little bit different as well. A little bit more metallic-y and a little more yellowish, but I thought this one was cool too. Trans clear. So you could really try to hide that if you used it in trans clear. So very interesting. I think that piece has a ton of value. And for some Lego purists, I could see them getting on board with stuff like that or stuff like some of these stud reversing pieces. Now the last but not least here, I had to get a chain. So the first one here is a Lego chain. Hopefully you guys can see the detail. The second one here is a Gobricks chain. And honestly, it's pretty hard to tell these apart. Now I have two more here because in previous videos I did a Temu chain and I did a Wobrick chain. And these two almost look identical, and the quality is, to be honest, pretty poor. The links are kind of cheap feeling. They have a lot of scratchy burrs on them, and they just don't look great. Now, the reason I did chains, this is, in my opinion, probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest piece to mold out of plastic. So if they can do that right, they can probably do just about anything right. And I'll be honest, that chain, that looks really good. As for price, though, it's pretty similar to Lego. On Bricklink, you can get a chain for 35 to 50 cents. The Wobrick one was 31 cents. So maybe a little bit of savings, but not a ton. But nonetheless, they did a very good job making a good-looking chain. Well, let me know below what you guys think. I'm going to do more reviews like this in the future of more alt bricks, because I think this is a very interesting sector of the brick building world where we're starting to see better and better products. You know, I grew up with Lego, and there were competitors around. You know, Mega was a big thing, Tyco, but none of them really stacked up. The Mega products were not near as nice. They didn't work well with the Lego system, and they just kind of had a cheaper look and feel. Nowadays, though, there are a lot of companies doing very impressive things, and this is a great example. And that's why I say in the title, this could be dangerous for a Lego purist. You know, I myself do consider myself a Lego purist, although I'm kind of tipping that scale a little more every day. Hate to admit that, but it's kind of true. And this definitely rocked the boat a little bit. You know, when you see really helpful stuff like this, or recolors on things that you really need, like these, it's kind of hard to not be like, why would I not use this? You know, it'd be one thing if Lego made it and it was accessible and inexpensive. It's another if they don't make it, aren't going to make it, retired it, or just don't have the right color, or Lego does make it and they're super, super rare and expensive versus something I can get inexpensive that should be inexpensive. So it's quite an interesting conversation to have with yourself over what you want to use and what you don't want to use. But at the end of the day, we have to consider these are toys and this is a hobby and this is just supposed to be fun. So we really shouldn't take it too seriously. I do know some people out there that would be completely against this type of stuff, but I do know a very large portion of my fan base is very into this kind of stuff. And that's why I do these videos. So I hope you like this video. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. That's all I have for this time, and we will see you next time.